That's your speech?" My dad snorted, loud enough for the whole row. Cute, like a little charity case. My daughter's smile froze. I whispered, "Stop." He leaned closer. "Or what?" Then the principal grabbed the mic and looked straight at us. "Welcome back to Untold Revenge Files. Today, the story you're about to hear takes place in a crowded elementary school auditorium in Cedar Ridge, Ohio. My name is Brianna Holt. I'm 34 years old. Let me paint you a picture of my life. I'm a single mom navigating the exhausting world of co-parenting. Every weekday, I work as a medical receptionist at a clinic downtown, answering phones and scheduling appointments while secretly dreaming of something bigger. 3 nights a week, I sit in night classes, working toward my nursing degree. It's not glamorous. Most days, I'm running on 4 hours of sleep and leftover coffee. My family dynamic has always been complicated. My dad treats life like a performance where he's always the star. Growing up, I was the difficult one, the disappointment. My brother? He was the one they always praised. Every report card, every achievement, every milestone of his got celebrated while mine got picked apart. "Why can't you be more like him?" became the soundtrack of my childhood. I spent years swallowing his comments, nodding along, keeping the peace. That's what good daughters did, right? But motherhood changed something in me. When my daughter Lily was born, I discovered a strength I didn't know existed. I could handle being his target. I'd done it for decades, but watching him turn that same poison toward my child? That was different. This graduation mattered more than most people could understand. Lily had fought through speech anxiety that made her hands shake during presentations. She struggled with reading, spending hours sounding out words that came easily to other kids. But she never gave up. She practiced her graduation speech every night for 2 weeks, standing in front of our bathroom mirror, working through each word carefully. I wasn't rich or glamorous, but I had something they didn't expect. If you've ever had to build your life from scratch while your own family acted like you were less than, hit subscribe. Seriously, drop a comment if you've ever had to protect your kid from grown-up cruelty. And if you're here for real stories where people finally get what they deserve, click hype or like. The Cedar Ridge Elementary Auditorium was packed that June morning. Paper graduation caps bobbed on small heads as kids squirmed in metal folding chairs. Parents crammed into rows of seats, phones raised, ready to capture every moment. The air smelled like floor wax and nervous energy. I'd invited my dad, hoping he'd behave for once. Just once. Lily deserved to have a grandparent there, someone besides just me cheering her on. I'd sent him the invitation 2 weeks earlier, and he'd actually seemed excited. "Of course I'll be there," he'd said on the phone. Wouldn't miss it. He arrived 15 minutes late, making sure everyone noticed as he pushed past knees and purses to reach our row. His cologne filled the space around us, that same overpowering scent he'd worn since I was a kid. He sat down with a heavy sigh, already looking bored. The ceremony began with the principal welcoming everyone. Kids sang a song about growing up, parents clapped, normal graduation stuff. Then came time for student speeches. 5 kids had been selected to speak, including Lily. She was third in line. As the first student approached the microphone, my dad started his commentary. "That kid's pants are too short," he muttered. "Parents can't even dress them right." "Dad, please," I said quietly. The second student began speaking about her favorite teacher. Dad shifted in his seat. "This is what passes for public speaking now?" He said it just loud enough for the people in front of us to turn around. Then Lily stood up. She looked so small walking toward that podium. Her yellow dress, the one she'd picked out specially for today, caught the stage lights. Her hands gripped her note cards. I could see them trembling from my seat. "She gets that nervous thing from your side," Dad said, not even trying to whisper. I kept my voice low. "Please, not today." He smiled at the woman next to him like they were sharing a joke. "Relax, I'm just being honest." Lily reached the microphone. She had to stand on the step stool they'd placed there for the shorter kids. She cleared her throat, looked down at her cards, then up at the audience. Her eyes found mine. I smiled and nodded. "Good morning, everyone," she started. Her voice was quiet but clear. My name is Lily, and I want to tell you about. She stumbled on the next word. It was perseverance, a word we'd practiced dozens of times. She tried again. Persever. Dad chuckled. Not a quiet, contained laugh, a real chuckle that rolled through the silent auditorium. Several parents turned to look. The mom in front of us shifted uncomfortably. Lily's eyes darted to us, and I watched her see her grandfather smirking. "It's fine, baby," I mouthed to her. "Keep going." But Dad wasn't done. As Lily found her place and continued reading, he leaned toward the man beside him. "She only got picked because they felt sorry for her. You know how schools are these days. Everyone gets a trophy." The heat rushed to my face. My hands clenched in my lap. This was supposed to be Lily's moment, her victory after working so hard. I turned to him, keeping my voice steady. "You need to stop, now." He rolled his eyes. "This is why people don't take your little family seriously. You're both too sensitive." That's when the principal, Mr. Harrison, paused mid-step near the stage. He'd been moving to adjust the microphone stand, but now he stood still, his eyes scanning the audience. The whispers and shifting in seats had caught his attention. He looked directly at our section, and his expression hardened. "Before we continue," Mr. Harrison said into his microphone, his voice cutting through the murmurs, "I need to address something I just heard." The auditorium went silent. Every parent, teacher, and child turned toward the principal. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. Dad straightened in his seat, his smirk fading slightly. Lily stood frozen at the podium, her note cards shaking in her small hands. I wanted to run to her, to shield her from whatever was about to happen, but I stayed seated, my body tense like a spring ready to snap. Mr. Harrison continued, his tone firm but professional. "This is a celebration of our students' achievements. Every child on this stage has worked hard to be here." His eyes stayed fixed on our section. "We will show them the respect they deserve." Dad actually had the nerve to mutter, "Dramatic much?" under his breath. The ceremony resumed, but the atmosphere had shifted. Lily finished her speech, her voice smaller than before but determined. She talked about how her mom helped her practice reading every night, how her teacher never gave up on her, how she learned that hard work matters more than being perfect. When she finished, the applause was louder than for any other student. I stood up, clapping until my hands hurt, tears streaming down my face. Dad stayed seated. After Lily returned to her chair on stage, there was a brief intermission before the diploma ceremony. Parents stood to stretch, kids whispered excitedly, and I thought maybe we could get through the rest without incident. I was wrong. The moment people started moving around, Dad positioned himself with my aunt and uncle near the stage for photos. When I approached with my phone, ready to capture a picture of Lily with her family, Dad held up his hand. "It's grandparents and real parents only," he said, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. "You know, the stable influences." My aunt looked uncomfortable but said nothing. My uncle studied his shoes. The other parents pretended not to notice, but I saw their quick glances, their awkward shuffling away from our family drama. I stood there, phone in my hand, feeling like I was 12 years old again, being told I wasn't good enough to join the family Christmas card photo because I'd gotten a C in math. But this time was different. This time my daughter was watching. "That's fine," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Lily and I will take our own photos, the ones that actually matter." I walked away, but inside I was shaking. The old fear was there, that familiar knot in my stomach that appeared whenever Dad flexed his control. But something else was there too. Anger. Real, burning anger. As the ceremony resumed and kids lined up to receive their certificates, Dad found a group of parents near the refreshment table. I could hear him from where I sat, his voice carrying over the quiet background music. "Single moms, you know how it is," he was saying. "They mean well, but kids need structure, real structure. That's why I try to step in when I can." Mrs. Chen, whose daughter was in Lily's class, looked uncomfortable. "Lily seems like a wonderful girl," she offered politely. "Oh, she is," Dad agreed, his tone dripping with false sympathy. "Considering the circumstances. But between you and me, she only got picked to speak because the school felt sorry for her." They have quotas for these things. Special needs, single-parent homes, you understand. I stood up so fast my purse fell off my lap. This time, I didn't care who heard. I walked straight over to him, my heels clicking on the linoleum floor. "That's enough," I said. He turned to me with that familiar condescending smile. "Brianna, we're just talking." "No, you're lying. Lily earned her spot. She worked harder than any kid I know." "You're embarrassing yourself," he said, his voice low but sharp. "People can tell you're being sensitive. This is what I mean about stability." Before I could respond, Lily appeared at my side. The diploma ceremony had paused for another photo opportunity, and she'd come to find me. Her certificate was clutched in her hand, slightly wrinkled from her grip. "Mommy, did I do good?" she asked, looking up at me with those big brown eyes. Before I could answer, Dad knelt down to her level. His voice was sweet, but his words were poison. "You did fine, sweetheart, but next time, if you mess up, don't cry. Crying is for weak kids. You don't want people to think you're weak, do you?" I watched my daughter's face crumble slightly, the joy from her achievement dimming like someone had turned off a light. That was it. That was the moment something inside me snapped completely. I knelt down too, putting myself between Dad and Lily. I took her face gently in my hands. "You are brave," I told her, making sure my voice was louder than his had been. "Brave kids shake sometimes. Brave kids cry sometimes, but they keep going. Just like you did today." Lily smiled, small but real. "Really?" "Really, and I'm so proud of you, I could burst." I stood up and faced my father. "We're done here. Don't speak to her again." He laughed, that dismissive chuckle I'd heard my whole life. "Oh, Brianna, always so dramatic. This is why—" "Why what?" I challenged. "Why you've spent my entire life making me feel small. Why you can't stand to see me succeed at anything. Why you have to tear down an 8-year-old to feel big." People were definitely watching now. Teachers, parents, even some of the kids. But I didn't care. I was done caring about his image, his reputation, his need to be the most important person in every room. Mr. Harrison appeared beside us. "Is everything all right here?" Dad put on his charming smile. "Just a family discussion. You know how it is." The principal looked at me, then at Lily, who was pressed against my side. "Actually, I do know how it is. And this isn't the time or place." What they didn't know was that I wasn't walking into this ceremony powerless. For the past year, I'd been keeping screenshots of every nasty text Dad sent, every voicemail where he threatened to set me straight, or told me I was ruining Lily's life by being a single mom. I had emails where he offered to take Lily off my hands because I was clearly overwhelmed, followed by other emails begging to be included in school events so he could look like a good grandpa to his friends. I started saving everything after he threatened to call child services on me last year because I let Lily stay home from school with a cold. My therapist had told me something that stuck. Patterns matter, proof matters, document everything. So I did. My phone had a special folder labeled Evidence, and it was full. I hadn't planned to use any of it today. This was supposed to be Lily's day, not a battlefield. But I'd brought my phone fully charged for a reason. Some part of me must have known. Mr. Harrison had been watching our interaction carefully. I'd noticed him observing Dad's behavior throughout the ceremony, and something in his expression told me he recognized what he was seeing. Like he'd dealt with this before. If Dad wanted a stage that badly, he was about to get one. Just then, someone sat down in the empty seat beside me. I turned to see my cousin Tessa, the family's other black sheep. She'd left Cedar Ridge years ago, moved to Chicago, and only came back for the important stuff. I hadn't even known she was coming. "He's doing it again, isn't he?" she said quietly, not even bothering with hello. I nodded, not trusting my voice. Tessa had her own history with Dad. He'd tried to control her life too, telling her which college to attend, which career to pursue, who to date. She was the only one who'd ever told him no and meant it. The family still talked about the Thanksgiving when she walked out mid-dinner and didn't come back for 3 years. "You know," she said, watching Dad charm another group of parents, "I've been documenting his garbage too. He sent me a lovely email last month about how I'm wasting my life because I'm 40 and unmarried. Apparently, I'm a cautionary tale, he tells people. He tells people about me too, I said. The daughter who couldn't keep a husband. The one who can't provide properly for her child. You don't owe him silence, Bree. You never did. The ceremony was preparing to resume. Kids were getting back in position for the final group photos and closing remarks. Dad had positioned himself near the stage again, his phone out, ready to play proud grandpa for the camera. He was performing happiness, that fake smile he wore like a mask. Look at him, Tessa said. He thinks everyone's on his side. He always does. She was right. Dad was getting louder, more animated. He made sure to laugh at the right moments, to clap the loudest, to be seen being supportive. But I noticed how his eyes kept finding Lily, waiting for her to make another mistake he could pounce on. What do you want to do? Tessa asked. I want to protect my daughter, I said. I want this to stop. Then make it stop. You have the power here, not him. We made a simple plan. If Dad caused another scene, I would speak to Mr. Harrison afterward, show him the evidence. But if the principal addressed it first, even better. Either way, today would be the last time Dad publicly humiliated my child. The final portion of the ceremony began. Each graduate would come to the microphone one more time to say thank you to someone special. It was meant to be sweet, a moment for kids to appreciate their teachers or parents. Lily would be speaking third again. Dad leaned forward in his seat. I could see the anticipation on his face. He was waiting for her to stumble, to stutter, to give him more ammunition. My stomach turned. The first child thanked her mom and dad. The second thanked his teacher and his dog, which got a laugh from the audience. Then Lily walked to the microphone again. She looked different this time, stronger somehow. She adjusted the microphone, cleared her throat, and looked directly at me. I want to thank my mom, she said, her voice clear and steady. She helps me with homework every night, even when she's tired from work and school. She tells me I'm brave when I'm scared. She never gives up on me. My vision blurred with tears. Dad shifted in his seat, preparing to make another comment, but Tessa placed her hand on his arm. Not aggressive, just firm. A warning. Lily continued. And I want to thank Mr. Harrison and Miss Jennifer for believing in me, even when reading is hard. Thank you for picking me to speak today. I practiced really hard. The audience clapped warmly. Lily smiled, a real smile this time, and started to walk back to her seat. That's when Dad stood up. That's my granddaughter, he announced loudly, like he'd been her biggest supporter all along. Chip off the old block. The audacity of it took my breath away. Several parents who'd heard his earlier comments looked confused. Mrs. Chen actually shook her head in disgust. Mr. Harrison returned to the microphone. His expression was calm, but I could see the decision forming in his eyes. He waited for Dad to sit back down, then spoke. Before we conclude, Mr. Harrison said, I want to address something important. Today is about celebrating our students' achievements. Real achievements, earned through hard work, determination, and courage. He paused, his eyes finding Dad in the crowd. We don't mock children in this room. We don't diminish their accomplishments. And we certainly don't undermine the hard work they've put in to stand on this stage. The auditorium was completely silent. Dad tried to laugh it off, whispering to the person next to him, It's just a joke. People are so sensitive these days. But Mr. Harrison wasn't finished. His voice remained professional but firm. A student speaker deserves respect, especially from adults, especially from family. Dad half stood from his seat, his face reddening. Are you talking to me? If the shoe fits, sir, Mr. Harrison replied calmly. The entire auditorium seemed to hold its breath. Parents exchanged glances. Teachers stepped closer to the situation. I stood up too, my hands shaking but my resolve firm. This was it, the moment I'd been avoiding my whole life. Yes, he's talking to you, Dad, I said, my voice carrying across the silent room. You've been mocking an 8-year-old all morning, your own granddaughter. This is ridiculous, Dad sputtered. It's called family honesty. Not everyone gets a trophy, Brianna. I pulled out my phone. My fingers were steady as I navigated to the saved voicemail from 3 weeks ago. You want to talk about honesty? How about this? I held the phone up toward Mr. Harrison and hit play. Dad's voice filled the space between us, not loud enough for the whole auditorium, but clear enough for those nearby. If she embarrasses us at this thing, I'll make sure you regret inviting me. You know I have connections at her school. One word from me about your stability issues, and see how fast things change. Mr. Harrison's expression hardened. He looked at Dad, then at me, then at Lily, who was watching everything from the stage with wide eyes. "Sir," the principal said, "I'm going to have to ask you to step outside." "You can't be serious," Dad laughed, but it sounded forced now. "Over a family disagreement?" "This isn't a disagreement," Mr. Harrison said. "This is an adult bullying a child at her graduation. If you don't leave voluntarily, I'll have security escort you." The security guard, Mr. Tom, who usually just helped with traffic, stepped into view near the exit. He was a gentle giant who gave kids high fives every morning, but right now he looked ready to do his job. Dad turned to the audience, looking for support. "You all saw this, the overreaction, the drama. This is what I deal with." But no one met his eyes. Parents looked away. Some shook their heads. Mrs. Chen actually said, loud enough for everyone to hear, "Just go." Dad's mask finally cracked. His face went from red to purple. "This is insane. She's my granddaughter. I have rights." "You have the right to leave," Mr. Harrison said. "Now." Dad grabbed his jacket, shooting me a look of pure venom. "You'll regret this, Brianna. When she grows up confused and weak because you sheltered her from reality, remember this moment." "The only thing I'll remember," I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was, "is the moment I finally protected my daughter from you." He stormed out, Mr. Tom following at a respectful distance. The door closed with a decisive click. Mr. Harrison returned to the microphone. "I apologize for the disruption. Now, let's return our focus where it belongs, on these amazing kids." He looked directly at Lily and smiled warmly. "Lily, would you like to come back to the microphone? I think everyone would love to hear that last line again without any interruptions." Lily looked at me. I nodded, mouthing, "You've got this." She walked back to the mic, stood on that little stool, and said clearly, "Thank you for believing in me even when things are hard." The applause was thunderous. Every parent, teacher, and child clapped. Some stood. I saw tears in other mothers' eyes, women who perhaps recognized something in our story. After the ceremony ended, Lily ran to me, certificate in one hand, a small medal for Most Improved Reader in the other. "Mommy, was Grandpa mad at me?" I knelt down and hugged her tight. "No, baby. Grandpa has problems that have nothing to do with you. You were perfect up there. Absolutely perfect." "Why did he leave?" "Because Mr. Harrison knew you deserved better than someone being mean on your special day." She thought about this, then nodded. "Mr. Harrison is nice. Can we get ice cream now?" "We can get all the ice cream you want." As we gathered our things, Mr. Harrison approached with the school counselor, Mrs. Martinez. "Mrs. Holt, could we speak with you for a moment?" Tessa took Lily to look at the artwork displayed in the hallway while I talked with them. "We want you to know," Mrs. Martinez said, "that we take these situations seriously. If you need to document today's incident for any legal purposes, we're happy to provide statements. We also have resources," Mr. Harrison added, handing me a card. "Support groups, legal aid references, whatever you might need." "Thank you," I said, meaning it deeply. "Just knowing you saw it, that you stood up for her, that means everything." "Every child deserves to feel safe and celebrated at their graduation," he said. "No exceptions." Later, at the ice cream shop, Lily got chocolate with rainbow sprinkles. Tessa joined us, and we talked about everything except what happened. We talked about Lily's summer plans, about the books she wanted to read, about the swimming lessons starting next week. That evening, Tessa helped me draft a message to Dad. It was simple and clear. No more unsupervised contact with Lily. All communication goes through me. Any harassment will be reported to the authorities. The voicemails, texts, and emails have been saved and backed up. The family response was mixed. Some relatives stayed silent, pretending nothing happened, but surprisingly, a few reached out. My aunt called to apologize for not speaking up. A cousin admitted Dad had bullied her kids too, and she'd been too scared to confront him. That day, my daughter learned something I never learned at her age. I reflected later, watching her sleep peacefully. Adults don't get to be cruel just because they're family. If someone ever humiliated you or your kid in public and then called it a joke, you already know how deep that cuts. Subscribe if you're building boundaries in a family that hates them. And please share your story in the comments. When did you finally speak up, and what did it cost you? Click hype to help this story reach others who need it. Standing up for yourself is tough. If you've been there, subscribe and become part of our community. Let me know this story helped by clicking hype, and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how far these stories travel.